You know, sometimes things can get what we might call a little bit testy between coworkers. It happens all the time. If you've had a job, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's always somebody you just can't get along with, and that was the case in Fairfax, Virginia. These guys worked at a Target store, and they had a kind of ongoing dispute. But it didn't end well because one of the workers took the life of another. Now, we're going to tell you how with a surprise ending in just a moment, but first, another, squabble fight between a father and son. When the son ended that fight by doing the unthinkable. Now, if you were thinking murder, well, that's thinkable, so that's not the unthinkable. It went far worse than murder. Okay, let's take a look, and you're going to be amazed at the twist at the end of the story. This is a distressing incident involving the alleged murder of Michael Moan by his son Justin Moan in Pennsylvania. Justin Moan was charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and possession of an instrument of crime. According to the Bucks County District Attorney's Office and Middletown Township Police Department, the authorities were alerted after the victim's wife discovered her husband's body in their Levittown home. The crime scene revealed a machete and a large kitchen knife. Justin Moan left the scene in his father's vehicle and was later apprehended in Fort Indiantown Gap. Moan's arrest was facilitated by tracking his cell phone after leaving the crime scene. He is currently incarcerated, denied bail, and awaiting a preliminary court hearing. In a YouTube video, Moan made inflammatory remarks about his father. Authorities emphasize there is no threat to the public, and the investigation is ongoing.
Now, here's the twist. The victim, Michael Moan, had not only been decapitated, but a 14-minute video on YouTube in which his son Justin displayed the decapitated head of his father while making disturbing statements. The video violated YouTube's policies, resulting in its removal, and Moan's channel was terminated.
Did you know that the United States of America is number one? In serial killers, number two is Russia. So how many serial killers are there or have there been in the USA? The number is 3,615, and Russia is coming in number two at 196. So what can I say about the Russians? Are they just law-abiding citizens, or are they just not very good at catching serial killers? I don't know the answer, but Gary Ridgway is known as the Green River Killer, one of the most notorious American serial killers ever, and guess what? He's back in the news. But first, a couple co-workers in a Virginia Target store just couldn't seem to get along. Their squabble ended with one killing another. Okay, so what was the fight all about? Well, just wait until you hear the twist at the end of the story. Bazin Berhe, a 25-year-old man from Alexandria, Virginia, has been sentenced to 100 years in prison with 30 years suspended for the 2021 murder of his co-worker, 58-year-old Hernan Leiva. The incident occurred in the parking lot of a Target store where both individuals worked. Berhe planned the killing, purchasing a hammer and 2 knives and, quote, training for the murder, unquote. On the day of the incident, he waited for Leiva in the parking lot where he fatally stabbed and bludgeoned him before fleeing. Berhe confessed to the crime and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in October 2023. During the sentencing hearing, he reportedly threatened to harm others if not given the harshest sentence. So, the court handed down a 100-year sentence, with Berhe set to spend 70 years behind bars. Hernan Leiva, remembered as a father with a joyous spirit and lively sense of humor, left behind a grieving family and community. Fairfax County Commonwealth's attorney Steve Descano emphasized the tragedy of Leiva's unnecessary death and the impact on the community. The sentence was deemed necessary due to the perceived danger Berhe posed to the community.
Now, here's the twist. Berhe accused Leiva, a janitor at the store, of stealing his lunch from the work fridge. And that was his motive.
What could be more loving than a mother and her 2 adult daughters? Well, if you take the outcome of the Hargan family, the answer to that question is just about anything could be more loving. So, mom and one of her two daughters are dead. And the other daughter was recently sentenced to life in prison twice for each death. But first, Gary Ridgway, known as the infamous Green River Killer, is back in the news. Are you sure you're ready for this?
16-year-old Tammy Lyles was a victim of famed serial killer Gary Ridgway, who murdered 49 women and girls during the 1980s and 1990s in Washington, with a suspected total of over 90 victims between 1982 and 1998. Tammy Lyles went missing in the summer of 1983 from Everett, Washington. Her remains were initially discovered in Oregon, and part of her identity was established through dental records. As part of Ridgway's plea deal in 2003 to avoid the death penalty, he disclosed the burial locations of his victims near the Green River, leading to the nickname Green River Killer. The remains of Lillis were labeled as bonus 20, were unearthed at one of these locations. DNA extracted from the skeletal remains by Othram Inc., a forensic laboratory specializing in challenging DNA cases, facilitated the identification of Tammy Lyles. The breakthrough in was confirmed through traditional STR and mitochondrial DNA testing, with the reference sample provided by Lyles' mother. Sheriff's Office spokesperson Eric White expressed satisfaction at identifying all 49 of Ridgway's victims, concluding a case that began in the early 1980s. This development follows the identification of another victim, 15-year-old Lori Ann Razputnik.
Now, here's the twist. 16-year-old Tammy Lyles, aka Bonds 20, was the last victim connected to the notorious Green River Killer. Her remains were not identified for 2 decades. In fact, the identification was not confirmed by authorities until Monday, January 20th, 2024.
Was there love lost in the Hargan family? I don't know. I guess so. But I certainly know this. There was life lost, and wait till you find out why.
For the 2 first-degree murder charges, Megan Hargan received 2 consecutive life sentences, along with an additional 6 years for gun charges. It's the second time Megan has been sentenced to life in prison. Megan was convicted of killing her mother, Pamela, 63, and sister, Helen, 24, in 2017, and staging it to appear as a murder. The murders occurred on July 14, 2017, in the upscale McLean home where the family lived. Prosecutors argued that Megan shot her family members and set up the crime scene to make it look like Helen had shot her mother before turning the gun on herself. The day before the murders, Megan allegedly attempted to transfer $400,000 from her mother's bank account to hers, but the transaction was flagged as fraudulent. After shooting Pamela, Megan reportedly tried to make the same transfer again before proceeding to shoot Helen. Megan Hargan was first convicted in 2022 but was granted a new trial due to juror misconduct. A juror had conducted independent research, testing a defense theory and sharing the findings with the jury, which violated instructions against outside research. Despite the retrial, Megan was convicted again in September 2023.
Now, here's the twist. Jealousy. Yes, jealousy was cited as the motive, as Megan was resentful that her mother was assisting Helen in buying a house, while Megan was in the process of purchasing a property in West Virginia without Mom helping pay for it.
Join us next time for Primetime Crime reports that the national media overlooks.